Greetings VR fans, and especially to those of you whose first ever foray into virtual reality will be with the PSVR2, because this video is really for you. You see, while VR is amazing, and in my opinion it's the next big evolution in gaming, it still has the potential to be a very overwhelming experience for people who are trying it out for the first time. Some of you, for instance, may get confused with the brand new control schemes brought by the Sense controllers, and some of you may get overwhelmed by physically moving around whilst wearing a VR headset. Worst of all though, there may be a few of you that get a bit too excited with your shiny new headset and jump straight into an extreme first-person VR experience such as Resident Evil Village or No Man's Sky, and then end up with a terrible bout of VR nausea, which really is a thing that could put you off VR for life. I'm Eurogamer's Higton, and in this video I'll be making sure that none of that happens by taking a look at the 7 best PSVR2 launch titles that you should buy if you're a complete VR beginner and want to train your brain so that you can become an unstoppable VR machine in the shortest time possible. Fanta Vision 22X is a PSVR2 reimagining of the cult classic PS2 fireworks-based puzzler Fanta Vision, and it looks like it'll be the perfect introduction to the world of VR for someone like you who has never tried VR before. Fanta Vision 22X has a very simple but addictive gameplay loop where you need to link together 3 or more firework flares of the same colour before detonating them for points. As a completely static gameplay experience, you'll be able to enjoy this one while sitting in comfort on your couch, so you should find it nice and easy to relax and get fully absorbed by the light show in front of you. Thanks to the lack of movement, there'll be almost nothing in Fanta Vision to give you motion sickness, but maybe some very slow animated backdrops and possibly some flashy win animations. But with all the fireworks taking your breath away, you probably won't notice those too much anyway. While this flat gameplay doesn't look like the most exciting thing in the world, inside the PSVR2 headset you're going to be surrounded by beautiful sparkling particles as the fireworks you set off explode all around you. Thanks to the 4K HDR visuals, those bursts of colour against the black backgrounds will look phenomenally crisp, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a way to select headset haptics too, so you'll be able to literally feel those fireworks go off. Coupled with a super easy point-and-click control scheme which will ease you into using the Sense controllers in a virtual space, this game seems like a great first stop on your VR adventures. While Beat Saber has been confirmed as coming to the PSVR2 at some point in the future, at the time of making this video, it has not been confirmed as a launch title for the headset. Which is a shame, as Beat Saber is one of the best games out there for showing newcomers the magic and power of virtual reality gaming. So in lieu of that, we're going to have to go for the next best thing for this list, which is Kazuna AI Touch the Beat. Kazuna AI Touch the Beat is a rhythm action game based around a popular Japanese VTuber that is heavily inspired by Beat Saber, although it's basically a simplified version of that game. In Touch the Beat, you're cast as an audience member at a Kazuna AI performance, and from the safety of a single-person mosh pit, you're able to bop along to Kazuna AI's tunes and feel the rhythm of the music by hitting the notes that fly towards you with your twin pen lights. While this one will probably mainly appeal to fans of Kazuna AI herself, and while the gameplay doesn't look anywhere near as cool as that of Beat Saber, this launch title is the perfect place to get used to standing up and interacting with virtual objects in a virtual environment. As the majority of the action takes place on a stage in front of you, the world around you should remain relatively static, meaning there will be minimal nausea-inducing background motion. And if you have enough real-life room in your game space, you should also be able to do a little bit of walking around in the VR space as well. Couple that with the fact that you're also able to wield your two sense controllers as batons to hit the coloured notes around you, and this should mean that Kazuna AI will also be a great place to train yourself to use two motion controllers at the same time.
Welcome to the island of La Calma.
What better way to learn how to interact with virtual worlds using twin motion controllers than by smashing said worlds to smithereens? In Tentacular, you play as a twin tentacled kaiju who is tasked with helping out the inhabitants of the island it lives by. While the puzzle and island layout change with each level, the game world is static around you, acting like little dioramas that you can lean into and play with. That means you can easily play this game from a seated position, and while you are able to gently move the kaiju around with your thumbsticks, most of the motion in the game will be provided by you, the player, so the potential for any inner ear mishaps should be kept to a minimum. The best thing about Tentacular though is that you can pick up and play with pretty much any prop going, and that even goes for the little folks that you're supposed to be helping too. Go on, try throwing them into the ocean. It may seem evil, but it's very fun indeed, and they'll quickly respawn, so no harm done, I think. Because a lot of the puzzles in Tentacular involve picking up and then placing down and balancing small objects, this game is the ideal place to literally get to grips with the intricacies of the PSVR2's sense controllers, as you'll learn how to lean in and out of the environment in order to pluck objects from the scenery, which is something that feels utterly incredible if you've only ever played video games on a flat TV screen before. By doing this, you'll also learn how to use the grip buttons on the side of the sense controllers to hold and then throw objects, and there's plenty of mechanics in the game that also use the controller's face buttons too. So if you're looking for a bright, colourful, funny and family-friendly VR toy box in which to develop your sense controller skills, I'd give this game a tentacle out of 10, that's for sure.
We all seek a greater understanding of our world and of where we come from.
Ready for battle. Let all monsters beware.
Next up we have Demio, a brilliant but at times rather brutal board game simulator that will not only help you get to grips with using physical gestures to move about in a VR space, but as it's a multiplayer game, it will also be a great place for you to experience interacting with real people in virtual reality. Demio is basically a turn-based role-playing board game like, say, HeroQuest, and because of this, the speed of the gameplay is never overwhelming. You're free to take as long as you want to plan your moves and attacks. What makes this an excellent game for VR beginners though is that, while the gameplay all takes place on a virtual game board in a static environment, you can actually navigate through that virtual world and get up close and personal with your chosen adventurer using physical motions to reposition yourself. That means you can use the sense controllers to grab at the air and then pull yourself around the game board, or use these gestures to turn on the spot, or even use them to pull your arms apart to zoom in and out, much like you do with two fingers on a mobile phone screen. Using physical gestures to adjust your position in VR means that you shouldn't experience any motion sickness at all, and while it does take a while to adjust your brain to moving in this way, once it clicks, you'll be well on your way to mastering movement with your sense controllers. Cities VR Enhanced Edition is a city management game that will allow you to create the city of your dreams without giving you too much of a sensory overload as you do so. Once again, Cities VR is a static diorama-style experience that you can physically lean in and out of, but with this one, you'll also be able to use the Sense Controller's thumbsticks to move around as you manage the construction and economy of your very own virtual world. Moving around in VR using thumbsticks only can take a little getting used to at first, as it feels odd to have your brain tell you that you're moving, but not feel the physical sensations of movement running through your body as you do so. So playing a game as slow-paced as this should be a good way to build up your tolerance for this type of motion. Drawing and placing down your city by pointing, clicking and painting with your Sense controller is set to be super easy and intuitive, and there's a lot of menus in the game for things like checking on the well-being of your citizens and keeping your books in order, which will help you practice going from 3D gameplay to flat menus and back again using motion controls only. Best of all though is the way Cities VR Enhanced Edition allows you to both view your creations from a bird's eye view and zoom right down to street level where you can watch them come alive thanks to the hustle and bustle of the civilians and traffic. This change of scale and perspective is yet another wonderful example of how VR can immerse you in a game and make you feel like a part of its world. And when it's also a world that you yourself have created, you're going to feel an incredible sense of connection when you go eye to eye with it.
Your time has come at last, dear reader.
Moss lies at the more extreme end of the VR beginner's scale due to the fact that you're going to be controlling not only yourself, but the game's plucky hero Quill too, and you're going to be doing that both at the same time. Moss is a wonderful adventure game that's part fairy tale, part diorama, part Zelda game, and its highly detailed picture book landscapes are going to look phenomenal through the 4K lenses of the PSVR2 headset. Playing as a ghostly presence known as the Reader, you're able to reach into Moss's Studio Ghibli-esque stationary levels to push and pull objects around in order to open up new routes that will allow Quill to advance towards her goal. Using the thumbsticks on the PSVR2 Sense controllers, you'll be able to move Quill around 3D platformer style and get her to run and jump and attack the many mechanical beetles that block her path. Master this type of two become one gameplay and you'll be well on your way to trying out some more intense VR escapades, but make sure you take some time to interact with Quill and the environment before you go. Glancing at your reflection in the game's many babbling brooks will really ground you in the world and make you truly feel like part of the adventure. And if Quill offers you a high five, don't leave her hanging, because you can actually give her a physical high five. These little exchanges may seem silly at first, but when combined with her awesome character animations that are bursting with personality, they will leave you believing that Quill is an actual living, breathing creature. So try your best not to accidentally let her drown, because I'm speaking from experience here when I say that the sight of that will leave you feeling guilty for weeks.
Shall we begin? There's no turning back now. Or so the saying goes.
And finally, to cap off your introduction to the wonderful world of VR, why not finish off what you started by tackling the trials of Moss Book 2? The game continues from the exact point that you left Quill at the end of the first game, and while the gameplay is almost identical, it does throw in a bunch of new weapons, story twists, and combat challenges that will put your newfound VR skills to the test. If that sounds like a good idea to you, the PS5 versions of Moss and Moss Book 2 are available to pre-order in a bundle right now, so you'll be able to save a bit of cash and have them ready to download on the day of the PSVR2's release.
Who give them the strength to achieve the impossible.
And there we have it, the 7 best PSVR2 launch titles that you should try out if you're buying a PSVR2 but are a complete beginner to VR. This list is based on the current roster of 23 confirmed PSVR2 launch titles, but according to Sony, over 30 are planned, so there may be even more beginner-friendly VR games announced in the run-up to the console's launch. If that is the case, I'll try to update this list in the future, but by carefully researching any new games announced, you should be able to tell if they'll be a good fit for you. Basically, make sure you go for slower paced, mainly stationary experiences that let you get a feel for inhabiting a VR world, something like, say, Job Simulator. And even though I know you really want to, avoid those big first-person heavy hitters like The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners until you've got your VR legs a bit. Those games won't be going anywhere, so just take your time, ease yourself into VR, and soon you'll be rocketing around worlds with full locomotion, smooth turning, and no vignettes, having just as much fun as I do. And talking about me having fun in VR, there are plenty of videos on this channel of me doing just that, along with loads more PSVR2 videos too, and they all go up every Sunday as part of Ian's VR Corner. So do give this video a like if you found it helpful, subscribe to Eurogamer for almost daily videos about video games, and do get hyped for playing VR for the first time ever, because honestly, it's amazing, and if you get it right, you'll never look back. Goodbye.